Pass your real estate exam with PrepAgent.com. Remember, keep it concise and keep it simple. In a lease, the landlord is the lessor and the tenant is the lessee. Remember, OR gives and EE receives. Oral leases can be binding, but generally leases are written and give exclusive possession of the property to the lessee and a reversionary right to the lessor. A reversionary right means the owner has the right to regain possession of the property after the lease has expired. Just like in any other contract, a valid lease must contain mutual agreement, consideration, capable parties, and lawful object. The lessee, which is the tenant, has the right of quiet enjoyment and possession of the property, which is the assurance that their possession will not be disturbed by anybody with superior title, which, by the way, makes that whole premise of that great 80s show, Three's Company, with Mr. Roper barging in on Jack Tripper, a little bit flawed. Anyways, let's move on. The lease is a bilateral contract which both the landlord and the tenant have obligations to perform. Remember, bilateral means a promise for a promise. I promise to let you live in the property if you promise to pay. The lease agreement can restrict the tenant's use of the property and specify the conditions of which a security deposit may be retained and the duration of the rental. Death does not usually terminate the lease. Upon death of one of the parties, the responsibilities, as stated in the agreement, could pass on to the heirs of the deceased. Remember, leases are personal property as they do not always run with the land, meaning when the property is sold, the lease does not always transfer with it. It is a contract with an individual person. As a way to remember the lease is just a piece of paper. Pieces of paper are movable. Therefore, a lease is personal property. Unless the lease forbids it, the tenant has the right to assign or sublet the property. What's the difference, you ask? Well, it's simple. An assignment is a transfer of contract rights, whereas a sublet is when you rent the property, you lease it to another person while still maintaining a responsibility to your landlord under the rental agreement. For example, if you sign your lease to Bob, you can move on with your life and Bob is now responsible to the landlord. If you sublet your lease to Bob, if the landlord does not get paid, you are responsible regardless of what Bob does or does not do. Constructive eviction is a term used in the law of real property to describe circumstances in which a landlord either does something or fails to do something that he has a legal duty to provide. An example would be if the landlord refuses to provide heat or water to the apartment, as a tenant cannot live without water, thus they need to vacate the premise. This would be constructive eviction. For more great information to get past your real estate exam, remember, go to PrepAgent.com.